Hey, NFL football fans, it's time to kick off week number 6. What has coaches stammering this week?
That's,
What players might consider a new career?
Next question.
Does anybody respect kickers?
Is that a smart-ass question, or is that legitimate?
No, I was just wondering.
One more question. Who's got a good one? A real good one.
I do. Does Washington have any players worth playing on a fantasy team?
I'm not going to answer that question.
We'll answer all these questions and more coming up next on NFL Players Fantasy Football.
I don't like where this is going.
Thanks for the news flash.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to NFL Players Fantasy Football. I'm Brady Tinker alongside James Lofton.
Just one time, I'll get that Warren Sapp in a small room, me and him one-on-one.
It was nice to get him in here. I wish he'd wear his clothes when he's around, though. Hope everyone's doing well. The football season is progressing towards the midpoint, and at this point, you're... Welcome back, everyone, to NFL Players Fantasy Football. I'm Brady alongside 8-time Pro Bowler James Lofton. I checked, too. It was 8 times.
8 times?
Yeah.
Where are we? The fabulous
Joy Athletics side said, I love it when you help me out. And we are to the meat of the show, St. Louis at the New York Jets. And everyone's calling me and emailing me and sending me, pigeons and everything else. Wanting to know if Marshall Faulk is going to play or Trunk Candidate's going to play. Let's ask Mike Martz.
We'll just see where he is. I don't want to jump out there and say that he will or will not play, but I don't want to rule it out completely either.
Bottom line is, I got to be ready. Faulk, he's a great player. And the bottom line is, I got to, be able to, step in and try to make some plays.
Did that help? Didn't help me either. All right, here's the deal. It's a noon game on Sunday. You can wait right up until game time. When you find out if Faulk is in, play your usual Rams. If Candidate is in, he will get a lot less touches than Marshall usually does, so put all of those St. Louis receivers in, including Ricky Proehl and Oz Hakeem.
Well, it's New York, and of course in New York you have a multitude of stars, and a new star for the Jets this year happens to be Lavernius Coles, and maybe unforgettable King Coles. And look at that, 17 receptions, 276 yards, 3 touchdowns. But I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the real star of the New York Jets, and that's Curtis Martin. Best all-around back in football. Well, everybody says Marshall Faulk, Edgerrin James, but I think for your money, maybe one of the hardest working guys in all of football is Curtis Martin. He gets it done on the air, on the ground, and he does pick up those fantasy numbers that you want every week.
Oh, it doesn't he? And he gets in the end zone. He's having a great year, really.
I love
I was a little worried about him when this year started as a top guy.
I would trade for him.
You would?
Yeah.
All right. Denver at San Diego, and you got Denver, and the Broncos look to me to be reeling a bit.
Well, it's this thing right here. It's a sore shoulder of Brian Griese. But when you really look at this ball club, it doesn't revolve around Brian Griese. It's kind of a where's Waldo type thing, and I think you have to find out where Rod Smith is. And if you're the opposing team, you think it would be easy to double cover this guy. Well, they just don't come out and eye right, and that guy's on the right side. Mike Shanahan does a good job of moving him around in the lineup. So granted, the running game's going, but it really is Rod Smith's team to carry for now because he's the lone receiver who's going to get you the big fantasy numbers. I'd play this guy week in and week out until someone finds a way to stop him.
You said you'd trade for Curtis Martin. I would trade Brian Griese, especially before his value goes down. That shoulder's already hurting. I can feel the DL coming.
He's nicked up every year, but you don't want to trade him too early.
Yeah, if you don't trade him now, you're not going to get anything for him. I'm telling you, those numbers are on their way down with McCaffrey on the DL. San Diego Chargers, it doesn't take long to talk about them. They are a lot of fun to watch. So if you're in San Diego, go to the game. This is a fun team to watch. The key, the L train, obviously. When you're in San Diego, I always jump on the L train, right? 5 games, nearly 500 yards, 7 touchdowns. Those are fantasy points, and this guy certainly has proven he can run between the tackles and in the red zone and not just out wide. As far as the rest of the team goes, Flutie's kind of up and down. He does what needs to be done. And I guess his feature receiver is Curtis Conway. He has the best resume in terms of a couple 1,000-yard seasons in Chicago. He's about the only guy that I would take.
Oh, that's a nice segue. You mentioned Chicago. Our next game is Chicago at Cincinnati. And I have to mention a good friend of mine got cut this week, Glenn Milburn, kick returner. They cut him in Chicago. So you tell me, what's the deal in Chicago?
Well, it's hard to tell, but I sure like everybody buying into this Dick Duran program. I'll tell you that. I mean, Dick Duran has them going in Chicago. Chicago. This defense is really the key. And we're talking fantasy football, it doesn't help that much, but if their defense is available, pick them up. Their defense has given up the least amount of points in all of the NFL. Let's hear what else Dick Jauron has to say about his young team.
You know, to win 3 in a row is it's got to give our guys more confidence. They're certainly gaining as we go. But again, our execution has to improve if we think we're going to be able to continue this.
Well, when you talk about the execution, he's really talking specifically about the offense. Let's take a look at a couple of wide receivers, or the top wide receiver on this team in Chicago, and that's Marcus Robinson. Now, the numbers for Marcus Robinson and Marty Booker have been a little bit up and down. I think that's how this offense is going to be for a few more weeks. The defense is playing great. Like I said, pick them up. But the quarterback's only been sacked twice on this team, Jim Miller, but it's just kind of odd. He started out last week 8 for 8 for 83 yards, and he only throws for 33 yards the rest of the game. But you'll be happy with Booker and Robinson's numbers overall, and it looks like the running back situation is now a tandem of James Allen and the A-train Anthony Thomas, so that's not of much value.
Pretty long on a team, all that stuff.
I like
about
that
good defense. The Cincinnati Bengals have given up 84 points this year. Now, that's good defense, and they have an offense that complements it. When you can run Corey Dillon, what you do, you play keep away. You play keep away from Brady's team. So all those guys that he talked about, not this week, mister. All right?
I love that when you do that. See, that's a little spicy there. You want me to shorten it up? Kansas City at Arizona. I'm a homer, but this is getting embarrassing. Trent Green, bench him. There's only one good thing going on in Kansas City, and it was because they had to. Priest Holmes is running the football very well. Tony Richardson's been out 2 or 3 weeks. Priest Holmes is getting the ball, and it is the only thing that this team is doing well. I look for them to continue trying to do that. Arizona's given up quite a few yards against the run. Other than that, stay away from the Chiefs, man. I'm even having a hard time watching them, but Priest Holmes looks good.
Well, if you've ever been out in the desert, one of the things you know is that sometimes you hear voices, and one of the voices we've heard coming out of the locker room in Arizona is what? We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Is that what we hear?
All week we talked about we'll see. At halftime we said we'll see. We'll see, baby. In the third quarter we said we'll see. In the fourth quarter we said we'll see. At the end of the game,
you know what that we'll see is? When you're in the desert, I mentioned the shapes come up, voices. That's a mirage. You know what the mirage is? Jake Player having one good game, another lousy game. Jake Plummer's been doing this to us. He's been teasing us ever since he played in the Rose Bowl when he was at Arizona State. So if you want to be teased, you can play Jake Plummer. If you want to do real stuff, find another quarterback.
You want to cash in, play Michael Pittman. Chiefs defense can't stop anybody on the run. When we return, more meaty stuff and more really good games. EA Sports Madden NFL 2002 chiming in, saying Ron Dayne's going 55 yards untouched for a touchdown. Now that, my friends, is a fantasy.
It's awfully preliminary.